And so just to give you the listeners a sense of what we're talking about, so like 83% of our incidents involved some work-related musculoskeletal disorder, right? So that's the lion's share of them. We found that around 65% of those involved, they weren't frank tasks. So we involved gradual onset type injuries. So something, points where we couldn't quite put our finger on what had actually caused that incident. And we then found that almost 95% of those involved some associated psychosocial factor. And that had been amplified as part of their recovery at work as well. So we were seeing that there was more to it. And when I had the conversation with our executive and board, what was on our enterprise risk register was manual handling. And so my objective early on was to try and shift the language and the understanding around the causation. And so we presented the information to the board, and I'd used, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but the model proposed by Wendy McDonald. And Wendy McDonald with Jody Oakman looked at a simplified composite model for workplace musculoskeletal disorder. And I chose that model because it resonated with the problem that we were faced with, and that is that we were seeing symptoms of musculoskeletal disorder. We couldn't quite label what factors were contributing or causing those. So that model helped our executive and board understand that there's more to look at and understand. And for those of you who may not be familiar with that model, it looks at workplace factors as a composition of like physical load and organizational factors and psychosocial context. And then it looks at that in context of the individual factors, and the individual's made up of all the complexities, natural complexities that you'd expect. And when you have a poor match between the two, there are resultant effects, and those resultant effects can be biological and physiological changes. And, given the sports science background, I could see clearly the logic behind all that. So you have someone that's under high stress, they don't have great coping skills, and you have these work demands that are disproportionate to their ability to cope through our own design. That's not a great match, and its likely resultant effect is going to manifest itself in a physical or psychological aspect.